Hello guys, I will be covering the IGCSE Computer Science 15 marker guide today. So for the Cambridge examination, there's a 15 marker at the end of every question, and I'll be teaching you guys how to understand, code, and check the 15 marker. The difference between this video and all the other videos you might be watching is that you might know how to follow along when they code, but perhaps you don't know how to actually approach the question or break down the question. So that's why I specifically made this video. So when you see this big marker, you might be shocked, like this little dog. That's why I have a secret for you. And the secret technique is called ADD. A for abstract, a D for data, and another D for design. So yeah, abstraction. So just like any other exam, maybe business, maybe economics, when there's a big marker or a case study, you also have to underline and annotate your key terms. So let's do that here. A one-dimensional array team name contains the name of teams of a sport league. So yeah, this question seems to be something about a sports league. Points awarded for a match, that's also cool. And then seems like there's, a number of teams in a league, so many teams. These teams seems to have played many matches. They have away wins, home wins, drawn matches, and lost matches. And calculate total points, calculate number of wins away or home or drawn matches or lost matches, output that, and then output the team with the highest or the lowest points. So it seems like we're basically just taking all these teams and making a scoreboard. Yeah, we're making a scoreboard, and so include the team name in the output, and then the total points, and then each win, drawn, or losses. We're figuring out which team is the best or the worst according to how many points they have. Now that you understand the question, you have to know what data you're dealing with, because every 15 marker likely gives you an array and also just some variables. So you should understand the data type of these variables or arrays and then its purpose. They're usually at the top of the question, and first you might have a 1D array called team name. So the team name, for example, might be Real Madrid or FC Barcelona. These are football teams if you don't know. Then 2D array team points contains the point awarded for each match. For example, match 1, 1 point, and 1 point would be they drew, or a point of 2 points, and that would mean they won at home, or 3 points, that mean they won away from their stadium, or 0 meaning they lost. And then the position of each team's data in the two arrays are the same. So for example, Real Madrid here, it's the first row, so the first team here would correspond to the first set of points here, aka points 1, 2, and 3 would be Real Madrid's, and 0, 3, and 1 would be for Barcelona. And this would apply for further teams down the line. Then it also says league size contains the number of teams in the league, and match number contains the number of matches played. So in this case, the league size would be 2 because we have 2 teams, and the match number would be 3 because we played 3 matches. Now, how do you design the algorithm? The stuff you've been learning in paper 2 theory, you actually get to apply it. So a structure diagram is like a great tool to represent, how a question is designed. We're making the scoreboard, right? And so the first section is calculating and tallying the number of win, draws, and losses. So this program, first we would have tallying and totaling points. Then we have to output the points, or displaying the points. And then we'll find the best or worst team, or the highest or lowest total points. So yeah, minimum or maximum. And now let's go coding. Now, there's no point of me going through how I code line by line, so I'll break the code down for you. So first we'll declare. In this case, I'm using the pseudocode.pro compiler. So, so I can run the code. But actually in the exam, you may not have to declare because it says you do not need to declare any arrays, variable, or constants. You can assume it's been done. Just for those distinction people out there, if you really wanted to, you can. If you do, the very least that could happen is, they don't care about your declaration. The best that can happen is the examiner was confused of one of your variables. They go back to declarations and they see it's a string. But also, if you're struggling with time, then you can also not declare. I made total points because we'll be tallying in total points, remember? For each team, like here. And then results is with away wins, home wins, draws, and losses. So this 2D array will contain the number of wins, draws, or losses by each team. These integers, since we're doing a minimum and maximum, when you scan the question, you would know that you're doing that. Okay, here, team number, I'll use that for looping, and then points, I'll also use that later on, you'll see. And then minimum and maximum, so that's for the name of the teams with the highest amount of points. So first, since we're gonna be totaling points for each team, we're gonna of course loop through each team. From the first team to the last team being the number of teams in the league. We'll initialize the total points to 0 of that team. And then for each match, we're gonna retrieve the points, which would be at the row team number and at the column match. For example, we want the results of the third match of FC Barcelona. That means we're gonna use column 3 because it's match 3, and then row 2 because it's the FC Barcelona team, so we would get 1. And so yeah, that's how we would get the points. We total it up for that team, we add the points, and then here comes my optimization part. Since the question tells us that each match can be 0, 1, 2, or 3 depending on whether they lost, drawn, won, or away win. That means that we could also make a 2D array based on that. Now, as we go through Madrid, the first match, they have one as their score or points. That means that they have drawn. So we would tally 1. Match 2, they got a 2. That means they won at home. Match 3, they got an away win. That means they won at 3. Let's say this first game of Madrid, they won. No, they drew. So they would get a point of 1, correct? So we would tally up the draws for Madrid using Madrid's row, points being the column. Because since they got 1 point, that is also their column, because it's column 1. This is column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3. And then the first row. You just add 1 to whatever we had. So you can see how we optimized the algorithm. Rather than checking if lost, then add to column 0, we just make lost column 0 totally. Now it comes to outputting. So team name is Madrid. Team total points is 17, or in this case total points of team number that we totaled here. Away wins at column 3 here. Home wins here, drawn wins here at column 1, and then lost at 0, so 1 and 0 here. Lastly, minimum and maximum. So this is a commonly asked question. How do you find the minimum or maximum total points of an array? You would have this as the minimum. Now you're looping at 9, which would be here. You have to check whether it's lower than 17. So since 9 is lower than 17, it becomes the new minimum right here.
As we go to the next one, so we're looping at 10 now. Is 10 less than the current minimum, which is 9? No, 10 is not less than 9, so we go on. Is 7 less than 9? 7 is less than 9, so it gets replaced. And then Is 20 less than 7? 20 is not less than 7. So the minimum, we got 7, which is, yeah, it's the minimum out of these teams.
And then once we got the value of the minimum, we also get the team name who has the minimum points. AKA, if this is Man United, for example, the minimum name would become Man United because the name gets reassigned every time we find a new minimum. The opposite applies for maximum. And then if we go up here, the reason minimum starts at 999 because we loop at 17. 17 would always be greater than 999. Or let's say here was like 12, it would be lower, so it would instantly become the new minimum. Opposite applies for maximum. And then after all those loops, after we have found the minimum, we would output the lowest total points is this by minimum name. Actually, the question may only require just output the name of the team, but you know, it's might as well just do that. So yeah, after you run it, you would get each team. The name is Real Madrid, total points 27, away wins blah blah blah. Lowest total points is 17 by Inter Milan, and then highest total points is 42 by Paris Saint-Germain. Yeah, I hope you understand. That is how I would approach the 15 marker. After coding that, how do you check your work? Well, you can't check line by line, or you can't run the code, but what you can do is first you can check the conditions using and instead of or stuff like that. Then check that you have commented enough. Ideally, you would comment like every 5 lines, for example. Here, I haven't commented enough.
So I would do output total points and win/draws/losses. For example, maybe here, override set new minimum if found.
You get the point. So every quote-unquote block of code that you think makes sense, that counts as a block, which is normally around every 5 lines, you do a comment. If you forget in the test to comment at all, then you might comment at the side, because that also works. Check if you have wrote your end ifs or your end whiles, your next, your until. So here I've done my next, my end ifs, so there's no syntax error happening. And also, did we fulfill list of tasks they gave us? Yeah, we have. We have outputted the name, the total points, the number of each type, and then we have found the team with the lowest and the highest total points. FAQ. So normally people would ask me, since we're doing this on paper and you seem to be going back and editing stuff, how do you do that on paper? If you want to go back in paper doing your code, do this, or leave blank lines in between your code just so you can, insert your new code within it. And also, if you feel like these 15 markers are too tough, don't try to do these 15 markers over and over again. Try to do these small markers, like 3 or 4 markers, just to get the concepts of all the programming techniques. And then approach the 15 marker because you already mastered all these techniques. Also, if you feel like the jump from 4 to 15 is too much, then get ChatGPT to generate questions for you. That would be all. Join this Discord to access resources such as PubNotes and Red's Guide, so you can study these techniques. And yeah, thank you.